next.
And next, you're also going to present Cybermonk conference.
Cool. So I'm also going to talk about our progress on Cybermonk. So I've been working on overhauling the shaders and lighting in Cybermonk. So I'm just going to have a refresher on what it used to look like, and then kind of work in progress of what it's starting to look like now. All right, cool. So this is the classic Cybermonk look. So it's got a couple of like mildly fancy things going on with the lighting, how it's like got a bit of like a color gradient at the edges of it, but mostly it's just like straight PBR. But then this is what it's starting to look like now. Apologies for the really choppy video. So our goals with this are to kind of like simplify it somewhat, so like cut out a lot of the noise, make it more readable in the dark, and to allow the environments to have a bit of color in them without it conflicting with the color that we need to use for gameplay in the laser colors. So one of the first things that I did for this was I started making it in Grayscale. And this was, even though the gameplay depends on the color, I want to make it that you can still clearly make out what all of the gameplay elements are without the color being involved. So one of the main things was this idea of the floor being quite a dark color, and then the walls being a bit lighter, and then they're a bit darker again on the top. And so there are a couple of things that went into this. One was looking at tone mapping. So what we used for the longest time was this like filmic tone mapping curve, which looks kind of like this. So doing your like rendering in HDR, going from like black down the bottom to really bright up here, and then this is the function that would map it onto the screen. So a curve like this will kind of increase the contrast a lot overall, and make it look quite impressive. But you can see that down the bottom, it's kind of like smushing the blacks. And because we had quite a lot of darkness in the game, this wasn't really appropriate. So what we have now is more like this. So it's like really linear down the bottom, and then we're just using the curve so that we don't blow out the really bright parts at the top. In colorizing it, part of it was kind of based on the concept art from our artist Daniel Vega. So he's done some concepts kind of in this style, which is like a good level of detail for the game and a lot of like simple, clean colors. And this can't translate kind of directly into the game, but the simple shapes of things and the color scheme kind of transfers over. So we've like colorized it like this. So you can see that, for example, the faces of the walls are all kind of a single color. The floor is all a single color. There's not that many colors used in the environment, and they're less saturated than the concept art because there needs to be room for the laser colors. But we've been able to get some color in there. Okay, so one of the things that's going on here, which is like something I've been, I don't know, toying around with for a while, and I feel like I've kind of got it to work at last, is everything having kind of like palettes associated with it. So a surface, for example, the wall will have a color gradient. So it'll do the lighting in grayscale and then colorize it from that gradient. But everything else has gradients too. Like, for example, this neutral laser light has a color gradient, and these team lights will also have a gradient. And when the laser light shines on the floor, it'll kind of like hijack the surface color a little bit. It won't just multiply with it. It'll kind of like overtake it just a little bit. And then the laser lights do it a lot more. So that's quite a bit more noticeable. So the floor here actually has kind of a reddish color to it, which you can see in the ambient light. But when the blue laser shines on it, it pretty much, it almost wipes out that redness. And being able to make the laser lights kind of overtake the color like this means that we don't have to make the shadows as dark, if that makes sense. Because you see more of a color contrast between the lit parts and the shadowed parts, you can still get this feeling of these dynamic shadows flying around, without everything actually being as dark. Cool, that's where we're at so far at the moment. And one more thing is we're going to do a playtest this Sunday at 1 o'clock in the dining room here.
Will there be a tournament?
It will be a tournament. It will in fact be a tournament.
Will there be cake?
There will be Kex bars for the winning team. So yeah, it's primarily a 2-on-2 game. So it's going to be teams of 2 in the tournament. If you would like to get a little bit of practice in, it is available for free on our Discord. But otherwise, don't worry about it. Just rock up. We'd love to have everyone come and play in the tournament. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Woo! So a question from the audience now.
Yeah.
What color shows up if you cross beams, though?
So the question was, what color shows up if you cross beams? So basically, right at the point where they cross over, it's going to be a 50-50 mix of the 2 different laser colors. But there's also kind of a mechanism in place where as soon as they get out of balance a little bit, like as soon as one of them's a bit stronger than the other, it kind of accentuates that difference. So it tries to keep the colors clean and make the transitions kind of quite quick. Yeah.
Woo!